All right. Jennifer, will you cue me? All right, so I explained a little bit why I really wanted to do this, because I just think that Africa has so much potential, and maybe we're not giving it enough attention. So personally, I want to give the continent a little bit more attention than I've seen in the past. And in doing so, I thought, why not now? Especially with COVID-19, why not now? Let's assess the impact of COVID-19 and just see how schools are transitioning online, assess the support that schools have been able to receive from the government, and then assess the role of corporations in this in supporting education in Africa. And when coming back to online, what is the platforms that are really working for the continent at this time? So these are some of the thoughts that were running through our head as we were going through the questions and writing out the questions for the survey. We are very happy that you gave us the honor of giving us your voice. You really made sure that your voice were heard, and you gave us a lot of feedback, which we were able to analyze. Didn't take a lot of time to analyze it, but we were able to pick up highlights that we are happy to share with you today. So we had 10 countries overall participate in the survey, which was really exciting to us. And a total of 69 participants made sure their voices were heard. 8 from Sub-Saharan Africa, and then India and Brazil. And Brazil is in the house today. So the largest population was teachers. So when we originally started this, the thought was maybe it will be more administrators, but we noticed that the teachers are really passionate about this. So we have 46% teachers, 8% head teachers, 7% principals or headmaster, people in the nonprofit industry, 7%, and sole proprietors, 6%. We really love the passion that the teachers showed in these surveys, and it encouraged us because it helped us to know that they are not just teaching as a job, they have a passion to really understand education. And as a result, you will notice that the survey the voices of the teachers will probably be heard more in the surveys. So let me look at my notes. Some of the PowerPoint is a little tiny, so let me look at my notes. The majority of the schools that participated were private schools, and 57.4% of the participants were from private school, and 42.6% was from the public schools. Only 1%, about 1%, had less than 10 students. Between 11 and 100 students made up 10% of the population. Between 100 and 500 students made up 29.4%, and over 500 learners made up 58%. So these are the breakdowns of the schools in general. So we wanted to see what issues were the most, that the schools cared about the most. And in their view, what do they think that the government should care about the most? We noticed that 40% of the educators, they believe that the schools should focus on increasing the quality of education. But when it came to the country as a whole, they believe that the government needs to focus on all the 4 issue areas that face education, which is retaining pupils, increasing access to schools, reaching the most vulnerable, and then increasing the quality of education. So the government, they believe the government should take care of every one of those areas. But when it comes to the school individually, they would like the focus to be on quality education. Now, moving online, we wanted to rate the school's ability and just how quickly they were able to adapt or change in this very fast-paced situation that hit all of us as in the globe. So it wasn't like just one part; it was everybody. So how quickly did sub-Saharan schools transition into a different way of teaching? Well, we have found that 81% rated between 3 and 5, that they were able to transition quickly. So the data indicates that the schools and teachers were able to quickly transition into online education with no prior planning and minimum resources. Participants, schools, and teachers adapted very quickly. It's only one school that was able in Nigeria, they had planned for something like this. So they were able to not get affected because as soon as they hit, they moved their children straight up to their online platforms and they were ready to go. So they didn't have any problems. But most schools, they adapted quickly without any preparation, which was great. Some of the barriers to online learning that we were able to find was 83% of the respondents said that access to internet is the biggest barrier to online learning due to the cost of the internet. This also indicates that the data to tablets, laptops, phones can be accessed more readily if individuals can afford it. 51% listed that access to computers was a barrier, while the ability of learners to have a safe space to work was only 50%. So these numbers are quite high as barriers. But we really liked the fact that the 80%, it's something that maybe could be easily fixed. Not easily, but can be fixed. So when it came to effectiveness, we wanted to hear from you, how effective was online schooling when you transition? How effective was it? 46 over 67 respondents considered online learning to be effective. We found that this was such a great response because they did not plan for this to happen. I feel like a month or 3 months ago, or just say January, if you had told people go online, there would have been a battle. And they would have said, we are not ready, we cannot do this. But when this hit, they were able to transition quickly, and they still think that they were very effective. So we were really encouraged by this. We decided to look at what strategies teachers and students who did not have technology used, or what they would suggest. We found that so what they did for the schools that were not able to go online was print out paperwork and then resources. They leave it in different places where students can pick it up, or the parents will pick it up and take it to their kids and drop back off. That was 43% of the schools did that, and that's a really large number, which showed a lot of passion on behalf of the teachers to make sure that their students were still learning. Review content work at home. They encourage their students to review content, 28%. Videos, some suggest 8% suggested that videos should be used. About 3% suggested that every child should get a laptop. It would be nice. And interdisciplinary projects, 5% was suggested. And increase in learning hours was also suggested, just to help the other kids adapt, to catch up, not adapt, catch up. So increased learning hour was one of the areas that was suggested. So expectations from the government in sub-Saharan Africa, what did the teachers say? What did all the respondents say regarding that? So 22 of the respondents said that the government should invest more time and resources into technology, which would include virtual learning, hybrid learning, and free internet. Restructuring the school calendar to enable children to make up for lost time, and reduce cost to schools and parents, improve training for teachers, especially in ICT. And those are some of the areas that they would like to see the government invest more in. Technology used during the remote learning period. So majority of the participants indicated that the schools transitioned to online learning. 5 schools did not transition from our survey. 5 schools did not transition to online learning. 3 from Kenya, 1 from Cameroon, and 1 from Rwanda. The most used online platform is WhatsApp. 67% of the participants mentioned this as a viable tool for education in Africa. About 30 mentioned Zoom and 18 mentioned Google. Some of them use both Zoom, Google, and WhatsApp. Those are the big breakouts. Cisco WebEx and Shobi were used in India, which was quite interesting because I've never heard of some of these platforms. And Jennifer, could you talk a little bit about the role of technologies in companies?
Yes, thank you. And also at the time, just to remind everyone, we'll have a time for Q&A around these slides and what we found from the survey. And then we'll also have a time we're calling Creativity Abounds, where we'll move you into breakout rooms and to have a chance for people to reflect on this. There's some guiding questions, but just to give you a sense of the order of events. So support from technology companies. 79% of our participants acknowledge that technology companies supported online learning in their schools during the crisis, and 67% were from WhatsApp. 24% of the participants from Kenya and Cameroon reported they received no support from technology companies. And then Uganda ranked third with no support from technology companies during the crisis. Some were saying we just pulled out a couple of codes, but they provided us with free internet facilities, but bad network was the talk of the day. Currently, technology and internet providers have not been helpful or supportive in any way from knowledge and experience. So people have really had a wide range of experiences. And this last part was definitely discouraging, but they've merely cashed in on the crisis to make as much profit as possible, but yet the network connection wasn't helpful. These are just a couple of the companies that were mentioned. You'll see Safaricom came up several times, MTN and Airtel as well. But there weren't too many. I mean, this only highlights really 3 companies that seem to partner with governments to get the infrastructure needed to provide internet access. This quote struck us. I believe this was from Rwanda. The access to lessons, broadcasts, and radios were still a challenge to the most vulnerable children from the poorest families, or children with parents who were not educated and who could understand the importance of supporting and encouraging students to follow lessons on radios. Instead, they would encourage their children to support them in their farming activities. To some extent, the majority of the families where our students come from, their parents could not afford to feed them. Therefore, their priority was not quality education, but rather feeding them. Access to technology tools and use, such as access to internet and electronic devices, are still a big barrier. I know that even from our own interactions, because we're very involved in Rwanda and with 3 young men we have in different schools, this was definitely an issue when their parents could not even work to get food on the table. The last thing on their mind was school. So where do we go from here? It was interesting. There was definitely a sense from your comments when we were trying to pull together the words that we heard, but a desire to really focus on improving learning, improving the quality of learning. Some words that also came out were, can we reimagine, can we rethink, can we think in new ways about whether the calendar, re-envisioning the school calendar, re-envisioning how technology is used. And one person said, I think this is a time when the best strategy is not always the newest one. How can we really think, how can we go deep in the learning that we're providing? Some other thoughts that came up through the comments that were shared, where that there really needs to be a focus of how we do online learning. How can we increase the investment, build the infrastructure to accommodate the growing need in this digital world? How do we solve the problems of accessibility, inclusivity, adapting to different social realities, and reaching out to the remote and rural learner? We go an extra mile and blend online teaching with normal teaching, because both help on different occasions. Let's encourage governments, private schools, and institutions and partner organizations to ensure technology tools are available and teachers are well equipped to use them, and support local communities with the initiative of Radio and Cell per Family program. For a more result-oriented drive for success in raising the level of literacy and education in our society, more needs to be done to develop and equip educators with the most recent skills for carrying out their work in the present times and subsequently in the post-COVID-19 era. There was definitely, as we move into a time of Q&A, because so many of you did share such good comments and feedback in your written comments, and I think what we did here again, just to kind of summarize, is teachers adapted quickly. They took this challenge. They were able to use technology. I would say, in comparison to what I saw even from my my children in American public schools, you were using technology in a way that was different than here and faster in a lot of ways. Except the issues of accessibility and the internet access were real issues and definitely harder in the African context. And so we were inspired by the vision or the passion and the commitment to improving education, and also felt a desire for people to brainstorm together. So right now we're going to just have a time of Q&A, and then we're going to move into a time of brainstorming together. So any questions on the survey and on the slides that we've shown?
Hello, Ruth.
Yes.
Just curious, here in Rwanda, we've seen that the Rwandan government has encouraged all the different educational institutions to really try their best to make sure that they can use technology to ensure that there is continuity and the continuity of learning, and also there is a technical government arm of the Ministry of Education called the Rwanda Education Board that also has been initiating the use of radio, broadcasting, and the national television. I'm wondering if there is other countries in Sub-Saharan Africa, where they use also radio and TV, and what has been the result?
Yes, Cameroon use a lot of radio and TV for teaching. The private schools mostly used WhatsApp, and some of them use Google, but when it came to the government schools, it was radio and TV. The effectiveness, that is hard to gauge. So it's really hard unless we go back and do an individual survey to just ask that particular question. It's hard to gauge if that was as effective as it should be. But talking to some individuals in Cameroon, I find that most of the students were excited to learn, and from the surveys, what we noticed was that they only focused more on the examination classrooms. So if class 6 is the elementary graduating class, Form 5 is the graduating class, and then upper 6 is the graduating class. So the focus was mostly on those graduating classes to make sure that those children are ready for the GCE board exams and the first school living exams. So overall, that it was mostly focused on those classes. I guess we will know when the results come at the end of the year, the GCE results come. That will be another way to know if it was really effective.
Thank you.
Jen, anything to add?
I think mine is just a comment. Those were just excellent findings through that survey, because it just, helps us to see what is going on and what is on the ground. And I think as I was listening, access, I think, stood out. Are children able to access the education through the services that we have, whether it's through internet or through the printed material? And once they get it, then so what? What is happening? Are those materials getting back to the teachers? And how is the interaction between the students, the children, the pupils, and their teachers? And also, when you think about the home itself, is it conducive enough for learning? Are the parents, giving their children that room? I'm not sure about this, but why does it that most parents in the city during this time of COVID, they decided to send their children to the upcountry because of the lockdown, so that the kids could go stay there, and the parents are still in the cities and working, and therefore that in itself was a detriment to children. And as a few days ago, maybe a week ago or so, what that did that a lot of children, especially the girl child in Kenya, they were getting pregnant, a lot of them, because of either, incest, just stuff happening. And this is all because of what is happening, because kids are locked in there with their guardians and all this. So all that issues that as a community of educators and leaders, we truly need to find solutions that are likely to be long lasting, because I think this is likely going to be a new normal before we get back to where we are supposed to be.
Very true. Very true. I sat in a couple of classes on WhatsApp, and I saw the interactions, and they were pretty encouraging to see how the teachers turned WhatsApp into a very structured classrooms, where the students would come in, they would post responses and to questions, and the teacher would grade it and send it back and over WhatsApp, and have lecture hours over WhatsApp. That was really encouraging to see, because I would not have thought that something like that will happen. The disappointing part is the parents that you mentioned that would be in one place and their children in one place. The kids that were able to go online were the kids that were at home with their parents. Their parents can give them the cell phone in the evenings or whatever time that they schedule for class, and then they would jump in on WhatsApp and take classes. So the unfortunate case was for those parents that were not at the same spot with their kids, but they didn't have that privilege. Thank you for pointing those out.
I'm interested in comments on the chat window.
Ana Paula, você tem comentário que você falou?
Oh yeah, let's check in with Ana Paula and the others. Sorry, guys.
Luiz, eu vou falando, aí você vai me parando para conseguir fazer a tradução?
É melhor fazer em partes mesmo.
Eu queria apresentar um pequeno panorama do Brasil, que está muito similar ao que tem acontecido nos países da África.
So Ana Paula would like to make a slight comparison with the things that are happening in Brazil because they're very similar to the things that are happening in Africa.
Eu acredito que são dois pilares que a gente precisa ter um olhar muito cuidadoso. Um é o aspecto metodológico das aulas online e o outro a acessibilidade.
So there are two very important aspects, especially in Brazil, that we need to look out for. The first is the methodology of the online learning, and the second is the accessibility.
No Brasil, praticamente todas as escolas também pararam nesse momento, né, devido ao Covid, e as aulas estão online, pela internet, e em alguns estados pela televisão, sendo transmitidas na televisão.
So in Brazil, a lot of the schools, most of the schools have already stopped teaching in schools because of COVID-19, and most of them have transitioned to virtual online learning, and other schools are being transmitted online. The teaching is being transmitted through television, public television.
Mas nós temos o seguinte problema: cerca de 8 milhões de estudantes não possuem acessos à internet.
And the slight problem is that about 8 million students don't have access to internet in Brazil.
Para resolver esse problema, o governo disponibilizou que as televisões fizessem a transmissão. Mas eis o problema: um professor que os alunos não conhecem, porque é genérico, começou a gravar as aulas e a partir dali foi feita a transmissão pela televisão.
So to solve this problem, the government started transmitting classrooms or online teaching via television, via public television.
Então, os alunos estão apresentando muitas dificuldades, mesmo assistindo pela televisão, e muito desinteresse.
But nonetheless, there's still a lot of difficulty for the students to watch TV and learn, and there's a lot of disinterest as well.
E só para ser um pouco mais breve, quando eu me referi à metodologia, então o aspecto da acessibilidade é algo que é urgente, né, a ser resolvido. E no sentido da metodologia, em 2014, eu estava dando aula na universidade, e eu fiz parte de iniciar os cursos de ensino à distância para curso de física.
So part of the solution has to be towards the accessibility that the students have, and Ana Paula is commenting that since 2014, she's been working on a project that enhances the online virtual learning for students.
E um dos principais argumentos era que o curso de física, os alunos abandonavam muito devido à dificuldade.
And one of the greatest challenges that Ana Paula faced was that a lot of the students would abandon the course because of its difficulty. And she was teaching, she's been teaching physics.
E então acreditava-se que o aluno fazendo à distância, ele poderia assistir várias vezes a aula do professor e ali tirar a dificuldade, né?
Yeah, the initial presupposition would be that the student would be able to watch the online class multiple times and then ask questions, but clearly that wasn't the case.
Só que os professores continuaram dando as mesmas aulas do presencial online, exatamente igual, sem mudar a metodologia.
So the problem was, however, that the professors, they would teach the same way that they would teach in classrooms online, using the same methodology, and that wasn't the way that it should have been. It wasn't effective.
Resultado, a evasão ela foi muito maior online do que o presencial.
O que? Desculpa, a primeira palavra.
Então, como resultado, a evasão, a gente teve um número muito maior de alunos que desistiram do online do que no presencial.
So as a result, there was a higher proportion of students who gave up online learning as opposed to physical learning in the classroom.
Então, são dois pontos que são pertinentes à discussão do ensino online. É a questão da acessibilidade e da metodologia.
Yeah, so these are two very important aspects and points that are pertinent to the issue that we have at hand, and those would be the methodology of the online teaching and its accessibility.
Era isso, Luiz. Obrigada.
De nada. Muito bem.
Thank you, Dr. Anna. Thank you so much. Dr. Hamilton, I think Dr. Hamilton had a couple of questions in the chat window. Do you want to say something about those, Dr. Hamilton?
I'm just trying to sort out a couple of things with the Zoom, but I did pose a question on the chat window with the supplement, and it goes to some of the things that Dr. Giacomo was just sharing about the pedagogy, not as sophisticated as her comments, but I wanted to see if individuals had any short examples about learning experiences that were more effective just because they were in this unusual situation. So Ana Paula was mentioning using the same techniques online that you use face-to-face, and that not being very effective, but sometimes online can prove more effective even if individuals don't expect to or try to do that. So I was simply looking for some examples of serendipitous or positive experiences, perhaps, that educators were not expecting once they started moving into online.
Yes, and it looks like someone, Angololo, commented on the challenges in the Namibian situation. And I don't know if you want to elaborate more on what you were finding there. I'm not sure the first name there, my apologies.
Okay. I think the discussion followed more on the challenges, and I agree with Eric that perhaps examples where good online teaching has taken place would be more useful. And at this moment, in Namibia, for example, ICTs or teaching with ICTs become secondary because we are overwhelmed by lack of resources in schools, basic ones. To start with, things like supply of water, supply of electricity, access to internet. So that takes up large, it takes up a lot of money to sort of try to get there before we invest in technology. But however, those who are using technology are mostly those in cities, in towns, where there is electricity and the teachers, have access to, let's say, WhatsApp. They have smartphones to be able to reach to parents. But what has been happening is that basically they just read. If, let's say, in primary school, they would read to a story and then send it to the parents, for the parents to read it or to give it to their children so that they can listen to it. But we haven't had that interaction between the teacher and the learner, especially in primary school, except in private schools, of course, they have platforms and the children can log on. And this has been a challenge for most of the learners. especially, and also their parents, because the parents firstly didn't know how to go about it. The methodology, as Anna mentioned, is quite problematic. The teachers firstly didn't know what to do, and the parents also didn't know what to do initially until they figured it out. It took some time, but we kind of gotten there. But perhaps what I didn't get is how to record. Maybe the focus was not so much on how to record the positive incidences. And we should then maybe zoom into that and see how we can best record those positive incidences rather than just focusing on the challenges.
That is an excellent segue because we would actually like for everyone to take some time to think together and to share together about ways in which they are, what best practices they're seeing in your school during this pandemic. Maybe what is unique to even your own country's culture in how education is being done during this time. How do you make education even more reflective of a communal culture, say, for instance? Are you seeing that at work? And then how can we bring the best of current educational practices and our own unique cultural practices to this education board? These are a lot, and we actually might do this again tomorrow in a little bit more in-depth way, but we would like to take about 15 minutes where Ruth is going to put you into breakout rooms. I will take these questions and actually put them into the chat as well so everyone has them. But we want this to be a time of some creativity and hopefully for you to inspire one another. Are there best practices? So if you can focus on that, what best practices are working for your school in this pandemic, and then what is unique to your country's culture that should be amplified during this time? Following this creativity bound session, we're going to have two organizations that are represented here to share some really practical ways that their organizations are trying to help. So IC4 and Kurumbuka, and they'll each take 10 minutes, so we should still be done by 10:30. But we wanted to offer you a couple of practical resources. And tomorrow we have two others sharing as well to, again, highlight more resources that can help during this time. So we hope that's helpful. So Ruth, do you want to move us into breakout rooms? And I will put these questions in the chat.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Can have more interactions. The older people with helping students, or even just doing, sharing their expertise in their area of past job employment and things like that. So I'm just trying to make this connection with them to help both sides, because older people don't know how to use technology either, and then the students, because I work with primary kids basically, so they don't have the interest to stay focused, and the parents don't have the knowledge to keep them engaged, how to do it. So it's twofold. I'm trying to, get both connected, kind of like that.
Então ela está explicando que é mais em relação aos alunos, né? Que na verdade os alunos às vezes não mostram muito interesse no ensino virtual, e que também os pais não têm às vezes a disciplina ou a sabedoria de engajar eles, de manter eles disciplinados no ensino.
Exatamente. Eu vejo que são os dois extremos das pontas. Os alunos, as crianças, principalmente as crianças, né, os menores, na parte de alfabetização, estão sofrendo muito, porque eles precisam da ajuda dos adultos, e os adultos têm dificuldade em ajudar. E de um outro lado, você também, os idosos, o outro extremo, né?
Yeah, so Ana Paula is actually explaining how there's two sides of a continuum, two sides that are very extreme. The one side would be the students who, as you mentioned, Denise, are showing a lack of interest, but mostly because the parents don't have the right tools to maintain them disciplined and engaged. And the other side of the spectrum would be the older people who sometimes have the interest but don't have the knowledge themselves to,
Right.
to carry out in a virtual.
Many of them, there's a survey that was done, and many girls came up positive. They are pregnant. You see, these are 13 years old, 15 years old, 18 years old. So what do you do with that? That's something that's a big problem that's coming. So there's a lot of complexity that this COVID-19 brought, and the education element also. We still have many challenges to just make sure that it's picking up and students can get that learning that can go on. Yeah. So I think that's
okay. I think okay. In addition, what I have observed in Namibia is that there's an increase in content development for online learning by private institutions. But the question is, how many of us can afford that? Maybe those who are working, yes, but the majority have also lost their jobs and they may not afford. And you also need tablets. I know government is doing a lot, but they are not necessarily providing, let's say, tablets to their learners because they can afford. So how else would this information reach to the learners? Would it be good for schools to start to sort of encourage these is it parents, what do they call it, parent teachers association? Through those, maybe we build a network that is effective to promote online learning, to try to teach them. I don't know how we're going to do that. Is it through the WhatsApp messages that they send so that it is accessible? And that, okay, maybe that's one where we try to encourage parents not to give up. The other one that I'm thinking of is teachers, or maybe some kind of NGO or somebody out there to try to come up with teaching methods, short course for online learning, so that teachers can subscribe to it and then they learn how to do it effectively, maybe. Those are the only two things that I can think of at the moment.
Sorry to just jump in, but I just wanted to connect it to something. Apart from maybe having the private sector coming in, of which they can come in with very different kind of curriculum, which might confuse the students, because each maybe NGO or each non-profit may just come in with their own kind of like teaching method or curriculum. I would also prefer if we can have like an organized institution. Like in Kenya, we have the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, the institution within a country which is mandated to develop the curriculum for learning. If these institutions can be mandated at this time, because this is a challenge that was never foreseen, they can be mandated to come up with some form of with conjunction obviously with schools. They can come up with some form of online education learning so that educators can just page or use that curriculum.
I vividly understood what is going on. So we have a problem, and I said my recommendation is, in as much as we are trying to ensure that this access to technology is used to ensuring that the children, that the learners learn within this pandemic, we should also not throw away. We should also try to inculcate also our own local content, our own local means of driving education to the grassroots. Because at the end, what we will try to measure is what are the learners' outcome and achievements. Whether you use the technology or whether you use any means, the bottom line is that we want to make sure that the learners achieve something. So Yes, I quite because everybody is seized because of this pandemic. Nobody goes out, nobody comes in. So the only way we rely is technology. Now you also talk about in the rural community, how many of the parents have access to smart mobile technologies? How many of these parents have access to simple internet? And how many of the parents have access to other infrastructure like electricity? The percentage is so high that those that are being excluded into this group are so much. So we should talk about all these things to be sure, so that when we are talking, it's quite easy for us to always come in. We sit in a very big hotel and we say that yes, this is what we are doing, this is what we are doing, but it's
education because largely because of the inertia from the part of the government. It's only now that many of them are beginning to be proactive. Even though teachers had wanted to, maybe do something with the kids and get their attention, but the government didn't give them that motivation. I think they had other issues to deal with. The Nigerian child who maybe schools in a public primary school has been neglected during this COVID. That is just the sad reality. The secondary school student, they're beginning television and radio, but I don't know how organized that is. So it's a bit of a painful experience. And of course, when we say public private school in Nigeria, we're talking of millions of people, like close to 50 million kids, if not more. So that constitutes a good chunk of the population. But the private schools are well advanced, way advanced. They didn't lose nothing. They just had this very smooth transition into online. Because in the past few years, I have been actually helping some of the schools to build up their infrastructures and also the methodology, the pedagogy of online teaching, which basically many just embraced. So there are good things happening, but there are also some painful realities of failure. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Mr. Sam, any comment?
Sure. So I'm not too familiar, I guess, with the situation specifically for Africa. I've been to Ghana. I visited Ghana for about 6 weeks. That was many years ago, but that's probably the extent to which I'm familiar with the African context. But just in general, I guess in what Miles just mentioned, I think just thinking about how how crisis situations can exacerbate disparities that are already existing, and I think, and so for those with resources, I think it can actually be, there could be actually benefits coming from such situations, whereas for those without resources, it's actually quite worse. So how to actually address that? I mean that is the challenge, I think, and just very this is a learning opportunity for me, and some of my thoughts going through my head right now. But
thank you. And really, as we just talking here, the biggest thing that, and Ruth is here with us, is really access is a real issue. Access, whether it's in the US, whether it is in Africa, wherever it is, access. And that access is, how is it, and do we have trained personnel? Because you could have the tools, but the personnel is not trained enough. And so all those things, they really have to come together. So governments, private enterprises really have to come together to set up infrastructures that are going to take us to the next level. Because without that, it's going to be very tough for a lot of our children across the globe. And in Africa especially, because we know technology is not where it needs to be. And if we are talking about the internet, when electricity actually is a myth, so think about that. And you know, accessing internet is one thing. If I speak about here, Rialto, we have families that actually have no access to internet. So our school district, what I had to do was to actually give those families hotspots, you know, so that their children, give them a computer, you know, a Chromebook, and an internet hotspot, so that those children can access that. So if you can imagine that is happening in the US, think about Africa.
Well, hopefully everyone enjoyed getting to know each other a little bit better and hearing creative and practical solutions. We'll touch on this again tomorrow and hope to have even more time to spend together. We wanted to move and close our time. We're going to see if we can get 2 in, but IC4 has graciously said if we run out of time, they'll also speak tomorrow. But we are going to hear from Focus. Okay. So Focus is from Rwanda, and he's with Solutions, and I've known of them since we lived in Rwanda as well, and I'm really excited about the work that he's been doing and this new organization. So he's going to share about it for a few minutes. I'm going to share my screen, and Focus, if you could tell me kind of when to move to the next slide, that would be helpful. Just one moment. Hopefully you can all see that.
Okay, yeah.
Go ahead, Focus.
Okay, thanks first of all to Jennifer and to Ruth for organizing this forum. We are so happy to connect with, I think, is it 3 continents now? Are we on 2 or 3 continents?
We're on 3. Yeah.
3 continents. So I'm excited that
4 continents.
Asia, Africa, North America, South America.
Wonderful. So I'm happy to share with you about Kurumbuka Leadership Solutions, and I'm grateful to Ruth and Jennifer for having given me this opportunity to speak about what this new organization is trying to do, trying to make sure that we empower leaders to be able to solve problems and different challenges we are facing on our continent of Africa. And as I talk now, I'm happy that I have 2 of our student leaders who are in this forum. So welcome. So I would say that this program from Kurumbuka Leadership Solutions is called the Abundant Leadership Institute, and it was created in response to a felt need, initially in the education sector, where we realized that wherever there was a good leadership, you could see that you could have good results in classrooms, in the entire institution, even have an impact in the community. So this program, as I put it here, it's a unique program which has realized that we needed to put more emphasis on the practical application of leadership, because most of the courses we have been receiving are very theoretical, and we make sure that we have a quality education and making sure that the leadership is from the heart. For example, right now, it's important to see, while we are talking about the importance of technology, the use of technology to enhance education, you find that leadership is very critical. if you don't have a good leader, a leadership that minds the students, mind the community, school community, you find that even the solutions are quite rare. So this leadership that we try to bring here in this program, we put the emphasis that it should be from the heart, relating with the people, connecting with the beneficiaries, starting from children who need the quality education, and also going to parents, going to include all the different stakeholders who can help the child to have access to quality education. So it's an in-service training program which brings professional development, and we have very good facilitators. We try to make sure that we respond to African problems, respond to African challenges. Can we go to next? So when you hear kurumbuka, the word kurumbuka is a Rwandan word which means multiplication, and it is more used in agriculture, but also in an area of business, even in an area of biology, offspring. So the idea behind is that whoever comes to our program should multiply, should make sure that there are results, there are outcomes that are really changing the lives of people. And the Kurumbuka Leadership Solutions has started in Rwanda and even in East Africa. Can we continue? Can we continue? Next slide, please. Yeah, so that's starting from the heart of Africa. We welcome you here in Rwanda and East Africa. Rwanda is a very small country, very hilly. It's called the country of a thousand hills, but also a thousand smiles. Can we go to next slide? So, education, I wanted to emphasize the fact that education and leadership have to go in tandem. There are like two wings that can take any institution, any nation, any community towards development, even towards doom. In Rwanda, for example, education has been used as a tool to divide. So there is an importance to really make sure that the education, the quality education, brings more of empowering the children so that they can be a resource, a benefit to the national development. And the leadership is so critical because sometimes people put emphasis on education without necessarily making sure that the leadership continues to sharpen its tool to be at cutting edge. So we need both education and leadership to make sure that there is an institutional or community or nation development. Next, please. So, quality educational leaders, they invest in quality education, but make sure that community also is involved and developed. One day I visited this man called Tito Sibor Rema. He's a man who was working in a very, very low resource school, and yet he was receiving awards. And I just want to know, how come that you can even dream of a quality education in such a low resource context? And this is what he said. He said quality education is not determined by the size of students in a classroom, because I realized that the school was overcrowded with over 60 children per class. He said that quality education is not determined by the size of students in a classroom, but by the quality of the teacher in a classroom. And next, please. However, where leadership is critical to make sure that there is accountability, sustainability of the best practice, even to make sure that there is a transformation that brings positive results and impact the entire community. Next, please. So Kurumbuka vision came and and went even beyond the education sector. Why? Because we realized that where there is a good leadership, you can see also even those who are under the leadership can thrive, they can propel themselves towards bright future. But when you have a poor leadership, you find if it is in a school, if it is in a business sector, if it is in politics, in government, you find that the need of leadership, quality leadership, goes beyond this. That's why we said we would like to see empowered leadership leaders in Africa who are advancing transformation and sustainable solutions for the challenges of the continent. In this particular context, for example, we are talking about the importance of having tools, very good tools to use online to make sure children have access. It depends on the quality of leadership. And when the leadership, for example, does not have that mind of really mind the children, mind the community, you find that the priority is put either on self-promotion, self-development, rather than seeking the common development. So that's where we said we needed to make sure that we empower emerging and executive leaders. Next, please. At Kurumbuka, we also realized the importance that at Kurumbuka that we connect those who are influencers if they are in the same sector like education, or they are in the same sector like business, or they're in the same sector like the law sector. They need to be connected to make sure that they come into a same network of like-minded who are passionate to make sure that they make difference in people's lives. Next, please. And Kurumbuka, we equip with tools and resources that multiply solutions in the community. And this is where I would like to tell you that we would like that leaders who come at our program, Abundant Leadership Institute under Kurumbuka, can be high touch, because effectiveness result come from a relationship, high touch, but also high tech. And we have started to use this experience of high tech with online learning, where we found that in our context we have so many who can't access to this online because of internet, because they don't have smartphones, or they don't have the proper capacity to download the programs. So we need to make sure that we keep leaders to ensure that they have tools and resources that can bring solution to their institutions, but also to their community. Next, please. Next. We also make sure that we, at Kurumbuka, we celebrate leaders who have dreams. Those who are leaders, they always have visions and dreams they would like to achieve for the common good. So Kurumbuka come alongside the leaders to make sure that we support them and celebrate them as they realize their dreams. Next, please.
So Philkas, thank you very much. Just because the Zoom call may close out on us, and I don't want to lose everyone, we have sent everyone your website in the chat.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure the Zoom call doesn't close out on everyone. So this is very helpful. Murakoze Chane.
Thank you. You have our contacts if you want to continue to know more.
Thank you so much. This is very helpful. And tomorrow we have IC4, which is, Dr. Hamilton, can you say your title again? International
International Community for Collaborative Content Creation.
Thank you. Thank you. And we are going to hear much more about that, which is really about different continents working together to do education, especially around STEM projects. But we also, as we share tomorrow, and Ruth can touch on this as we close, but we also want to brainstorm how we can potentially create an agenda for funding proposals that participants could use independently, and maybe we could even organize as a group together. We think there's opportunity here, even looking at all of the technology that we use and how WhatsApp is used. Maybe there's some creative ways of approaching them to really spur you on in the work that you're doing. We want to dream together in that. Ruth, do you have a closing comment?
Yeah,
we hope you'll come tomorrow.
Yes, we hope that you come tomorrow, and the discussions that you had in the groups, maybe make a note of your takeaways from that discussions, and let's share those together tomorrow. And like Jennifer said, how can we find ways of solving some of these issues? Should we write a grant together? Should we write an individual grant that can support everybody? So let's come back together tomorrow. So please come back tomorrow so we can hear your voice and get your contribution in this. So thank you so much. This was really great. This went far beyond what we expected, and we are really excited. We hope this is the birth of something new, something that will start moving the continent and other low-income countries in the direction that we should go. We know the problems. We know we can find solutions to these problems. We just need to stick together. Let's stick together, work together, and hopefully we will find those solutions. So should we count on you tomorrow? All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. See you all tomorrow at the same time. We will be awake and excited and ready to share. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for doing this, Ruth and your team.
Thank you.
Thank you for the initiative.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
You all too.
Let me see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Susie, bye-bye.
All right.
So I don't know if I can see.
I wonder if it would make sense to stop the screen sharing for just a minute so you can see everyone, and then Jennifer, for you or Ruth, just to call on people to say hello to.
Yeah. Hello, Mary.
Oh, I'm Mary Ocheng from Kenya. How did I hear about this? I think I must have received an email.
From Ambassador.
Yes, I must have received. Yeah, I received an email. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad you're here. Dorcas? If you just unmute.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm Dorcas Morsho from Kenya, but learning at Pepperdine. So Jennifer and Ruth are my cohorts. Ruth told me about this and she sent me the survey I filled. I participate a little bit, but not so much. So I know about everything and I'm willing to engage. It's good just to see what's happening about education and how we can chip in to make sure that there's that access and quality of education to our African citizens and children. Yes.
Toby.
Hi, I'm Toby. I'm from Pepperdine University, and I heard about this yesterday in another IC4 meeting. And I'm also a teacher with Los Angeles Unified School District, so I thought I would join and hopefully learn something. So
thank you. You're welcome. Edwin.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Yes, my name is Edward Misava from Kenya. I work at Aga Khan University, based in Nairobi. I'm in charge of digital teaching and learning, and I do a lot of professional development for teachers across East Africa and Pakistan. I heard about this from Zach. I think he's on this forum. Yeah, I got a message from him. Thank you so much, and I want to welcome all of us to this session. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Edwin Omolo. We cannot hear you.
I'll speak for Edwin. We're not picking up your voice, but I'll do a quick introduction for you. He's a magical teacher from St. Aloysius School in just outside of Nairobi, and he's part of the IC4 project. And his voice just isn't coming through, so I'm interrupting. We're very fortunate that he's been part of our work.
Wonderful.
Satoshi, you have earpiece.
And if you can make sure to mute when you are done, or Ruth, you can make sure to mute those. Ollie White.
Hi, I'm Ollie White, and I'm the proprietress of Beautiful Beginning School in Liberia. And I heard about this. First, I received an email, but I heard about it through Beth from TTT, because I'm also implementing TTT in Liberia.
And we'll hear more about TTT a little bit later.
All right, teaching, training together. Correct.
Let's make sure we have Dante.
Hi, I'm in New York. I work for Pepperdine with IC4, so with the team.
Great. Ana Paula, you'll share later, but.
Hello, Luiz, você faz a minha tradução?
Oi, faço sim. Pode ir lá.
Olá, eu sou a Ana Paula, eu sou do Brasil, sou pesquisadora de tecnologias para a educação e eu fiquei sabendo por meio do IC4 sobre o fórum e estou muito feliz de estar com todos vocês aqui.
So hi everybody, this is Ana Paula. She's a researcher based in Brazil, and she became aware of the forum through IC4, and she's extremely happy to be here with everybody.
Thank you. Denise?
Hello, everybody. I was here yesterday, and I'm a graduate student with Pepperdine, and I heard about this forum from Dr. Hamilton. Thank you.
I think actually just for the sake of time, I'll highlight those who were not here yesterday. So I see, let's see, John, did you share?
Hello, I'm John Odhiambo from Nairobi, Kenya. I work at Semastea, that is Center for Mathematics, Science and Technology Education in Africa. I work with a gentleman called Ogwell, and we do a lot of training of teachers in maths and science. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Zach? Zach here in Basel.
Hi everyone, I'm Zach Mbasu from Kenya. I'm part of IC4 and also a founder of African Maths Initiative. And I'm excited to be here and to see you all. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Flavia, I know you were here yesterday, but you missed the introduction. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is Flavia Nakajogo from Uganda. And I'm also the current TTT representative in Uganda. I heard about this from, I heard about this from Beth, and I'm excited to be here. Anything to do with education just excites me, so it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. The infamous Beth happens to be an old college roommate of mine, so she is on this call. There are many who were not here yesterday. We'll try to do this as quickly as possible. Amaka, I think.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amaka Okafo. I'm from Nigeria, but currently I'm undertaking my PhD in University College. So I'm a lecturer in the Department of Computer Science, Federal Polytechnic, Nekede, back in Nigeria. I'm very much excited to be here. I got to know about this yesterday. I think and then he hinted me about it, and at Cambridge University. So I'm very much happy to be here.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Ateng?
Hello, everyone. I'm Ateng Ogwell, a teacher educator at Semester in Nairobi, Kenya, and also work for the Ministry of Education on other programs. And I've been working with Eric for some time. I knew about the meeting way back when we were having the video showcase, the STEM for All video showcase early in April. Thank you.
Ty?
Good morning, everyone. And Jennifer, my name is Ty Houston. I'm a graduate of the Educational Leadership Program at Pepperdine, and I'm currently in the second PhD program, rather, with Global Leadership and Change at Pepperdine. I run a public relations and marketing company, Insight, and we have done high-level fundraising, in particular in this space of education, with a concentration on science, technology, engineering, and math. Our areas of expertise include public-private partnerships, so we leverage corporate dollars for K through 12 and higher education institutions. In addition, we have a network of people in key and strategic areas that also have a great interest in quality education, and particularly from K through 5, because we know we cannot get STEM without arithmetic.
Great. Thank you. I think others were here yesterday. If you were not here yesterday and have not had a chance to share, can you just raise your hand? Okay, great. Well, thank you. And again, we are so delighted that you are all here. And
Miss Anne needs to share.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead, Anne.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anne Odeze. I'm from Nigeria. And I got to know the program from Estelle Baron Hughes. I joined her conference, and I'm an early childhood practitioner here in Nigeria. And I got to know about the program. I filled the form from Ruth. Ruth sent me an email too. So I filled the form online, and here I am. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Ruth, do you want to introduce IC4? And this is going to be a time of sharing about resources that are available. We'll probably have about 20 minutes of this, and then we will move into a time of breakout discussion. So go ahead, Ruth.
All right. I don't know if I can do justice to IC4, but I will give it a try. If I miss anything, soon, make sure you come to my rescue. So IC4 is all about content creation and collaboration for children across continents. So far they have they've collaborated across maybe 4 continents. He will tell us a little bit more about which continents they've collaborated across. And the children work with the teachers. They do research. They come up with different things. Dr. Hamilton works with Danielle Soong, myself, Toby, and we also help support the work that he's doing. It's very fascinating, and I can testify to the fact that it really changes the life of the children. The things that some 13-year-olds are doing in Cameroon now is just mind-blowing, and we just started working with them not even 2 months ago. They're able to create content and present and do their own project, do their own research. So without much to say, I want to introduce you to the brain behind IC4, Dr. Hamilton.
Ruth, thank you very much. I'm going to declaim some of your nice comments, because this is not so much a brain project as it is a project of some very dedicated people that I look up to so much, who have helped pull some things together. IC4 is a project here as a potential resource because it it allows students who have any kind of internet access, even internet access that's periodic or intermittent, to engage in meaningful learning and problem solving with peers who, interestingly, are not where they are. We developed a project that was organized around helping youngsters learn about each other and learn about science, technology, and mathematics in the context of the new technologies that we have. So I'll mention that there are some people on this screen who really inspired and made this possible. I'll start with John and Ateng, who I've worked with for going on 10 years now, and then shortly after that, Mr. Mbasu. Mary, we've known you for many years, but not definitely part of this project. Edwin is one of our teachers, and I had the pleasure of meeting Elizabeth, who's on our screen. These are colleagues from Sub-Sahara who agreed to help organize youngsters who could engage in projects that required science and mathematics and also required their collaboration with partners or peers from other countries. I have a short PowerPoint. I'll maybe take a couple minutes or less to highlight some bullet points about it, and then I'm going to put into the chat window, actually I'll put it in now, a video, because I'm a little concerned with 25 people in 4 or 5 different continents, or 3 or 4 continents, playing one video. So maybe we'll take a minute out later where you can just play the video on your own, where you're located. So if I put something in the screen, can you give me a thumbs up as a way to promise that you're not going to play it until we get to it? Okay, so here, we'll come back to that video. It's only about 1.5 minutes long, but that will show you some of how our students are working together. And let me pull up my PowerPoint. Life is so exciting with PowerPoint. There's so many younger people here who have no idea how meaningless life was before we had PowerPoint. Wait, I hope you know that was kind of a snarky thing to say. And let me get my... And I assume that you can see the slide that says International Community of Content, Collaborative Content Creation. Can I get a thumbs up? All right, so this will only be, I won't do all the slides that you saw, but I will say that this is meant to be a project where teams work together from different venues. So we have some individuals. Edwin represents a school, and he's a leader. Zach represents other schools also in Kenya, and those students might work with students in the U.S. on creating. We started out by creating videos. One of our first videos was students in Kenya and students in California creating a video on the production of ammonia. You might not think that's interesting, and but the point is that for those students it was interesting, and they did a project where it only worked if each one of them created and produced something different that supplemented the other. So they create what we call artifacts. In this case, it was a video, and it's all mediated over the internet. A lot of work is done by students at home, not talking with each other, and then they get together. So when you're working on a project in the real world, you don't do everything sitting next to your collaborators. You do things alone, and then you bring it back together. And that's what we do with IC4. We do this because video communication is different. Even when I first started working with Mr. Aguel and Mr. Odiambo 10 years ago, the world was very different in terms of video, but it's changed, and now kids can see each other. So we like the idea of youngsters stepping into the culture and the norms and the understandings of their partners or their peers in other places while working with them. Right now, as we're all adults, although sometimes people might dispute that, but what we do in the field of what's called computer-supported collaborative work is very common. Adults work with each other over the internet and across countries all the time, but we don't do that with students. It's not common for school-age learners to work together for a lot of reasons. There's no big pressing need. We're not trying to sell toothpaste in Egypt. There's no global demand for youngsters to work with one another. So it's not so much a problem. We call it CSCL, computer-supported collaborative learning. Adults do work together across internet boundaries, national boundaries. Kids, not so much. IC4 is an opportunity, though, to reverse that, to have youngsters working together. And I think as a tool that Ruth and Jennifer are proposing, there's opportunity to draw youngsters who are especially motivated to engage with one another in it's a fairly involved process to get involved, but then students are able to function together. And Ruth just mentioned she started a project in Cameroon, and that's proving pretty productive. Now, at this point, I'm going to bring up the video. If you don't mind, I think what I'll try to do is see if it will actually come up with, if it can show, and if not, I'll ask you to play it. Can you just give me a thumbs up if you can see both the sound or hear the sound and see the video? I'm going to play it for a moment. Can you hear that? Okay. So as I expected, I'm going to stop sharing. And right, but even in presenter mode, you weren't able to hear anything. Is that right? Okay, so here's our video. It's about 1.5 minutes long. It's a couple of years old, and I'll ask you to maybe mute your computer and just play that for 1.5 minutes. And you click on that, turn off your sound, mute your device, and let's come back in 1.5 minutes after you play that, and that'll give you a sense of some of the things we're trying to do. Fair enough? Okay, go for it. See you in 90 seconds. Okay, I hope that was reasonably useful, and you may have seen, I think Dante was in there. You saw a younger version of Zach. Some of the students are supervised by Edwin in there. Dr. Espino is on the screen, and she's the co-investigator and runs the project here from Pepperdine. Louise works with Ana Paulo and Archimedes in the bringing the Brazilian students in and providing a lot of leadership. So it's really very exciting. I can also say historically that there would be no IC4 without Tusi, who is in Nigeria with his better half, who's I don't know, Tusi, if I can say, with his better and smarter half, Awaka. Tusi was actually very instrumental early on. So I want to give some acknowledgments to this, not to elaborate it, but to let you know that this is something that's entailed the efforts of a lot of people, and it's offered here or identified here as a resource for online learning, including in a time of pandemic when individuals are cooped up or don't have the same access to physical mobility. They do have internet mobility, and whether through IC4 or other means, there are ways that kids can engage in deep learning through collaboration with others by being able to connect over the internet. So I'm pleased to share that with you, and I hope that's helpful. Toby is also on our project, by the way. She's a formal member of the team. She does great things in helping us analyze data. This all is funded by the U.S. National Science Foundation, so there's, and it's funded for us to do research. So we do research, and to do the research, we carry out a project, and this is the project we carry out. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to respond to those, or if anyone wants to weigh in, but that is a project that seems to have been timely for a time of pandemic. Ruth, you're looking down.
Are there any questions that people might have for Dr. Hamilton before we have Ana Paula share?
This is Ty. I wanted to, I was struck by the fact that you said oftentimes those students of whom have internet. And has there been any outreach for those students? I've visited Africa about 5 times, Cape Town, South Africa, Abuja, Nigeria, of course, Accra, Ghana, Sierra Leone, to name a few. But at any rate, I was wondering, are there any partnerships with either local think tanks to also generate quite a bit of funding from corporations or those private investors who would be so inclined to uplift and help to cultivate a workforce, a would-be workforce from the young people and accessing internet and or computers. I think of Microsoft and Bill Gates and Melinda, of course, and what they're doing in terms of equipping students with the necessary materials and technology so they can be connected in this wonderful world of IC4.
I'll say very briefly, Dr. Houston, that the answer is yes. We've looked long and hard. I spent a lot of time with Microsoft in Namibia, for example. It's a less favorable environment than one would hope. I've spent a fair amount of time with TUSI trying to get State Department funding. It is the case that individual schools provide a lot of resources. So Zach has been able to organize and mobilize schools in Kenya. Dr. Ngololo in Namibia has organized teachers and provided teacher time. But as far as actual task, as far as actual cash, it's a harder road. Also quickly mention, I enumerated a number of people, and I don't want to leave out Sung Lee, who's done a remarkable job on the research side. I started mentioning that there's a whole research side of this, and in addition to managing groups, he does a lot with that.
Ty, I think you bring something up that's important. And one thing we were talking about yesterday, and it could be a next step in terms of where do we go from here. But as we listen to the experiences people are having, and we'll have a chance for people to share in a few minutes about maybe ideas they have for collaboration. But when we were looking at the companies, the MTN, the Airtel, the Safaricom, the WhatsApp, Google, might there be opportunities there to say, you know, we surveyed all of these people, and this is the percentage that use, you know, 70% use WhatsApp. Are there opportunities that your corporate philanthropy might have if we put together a proposal to help extend some of these partnerships or existing organizations, existing work that's taking place? And so that was one of our hopes, is there might be some creative brainstorming that could come from this group that could help really empower everyone who's here. So we want to keep that kind of conversation in the back of our minds. So thank you for bringing that up. Ruth?
All right. Thank you. Cameroon is trying to get online, but they're having such a difficult time today. So sorry if I keep trying to look down. I'm trying to see if I could connect my computer to WhatsApp and let them hear through a voice on WhatsApp, but not very technical. So right, let's, without further ado, let's bring in Anna Paula. Anna Paula has been working with IC4 for a while. She is extremely intelligent, like everybody here, and she has some ideas post COVID-19 that she would like to share with us. She talked eloquently about the issues yesterday, and since she had already prepared this, we thought it would be a great idea to hear from another perspective that is not Africa, but Brazil, to hear what she's thinking and how she's, as a student of technology and math and physics and all of this scientific stuff, how is she looking at this problem? So Ana Paula has a translator, Luis, and Luis is going to translate for her. Thank you, Luis, for translating.
My pleasure.
Primeiramente, muito obrigada. Me sinto imensamente feliz de estar aqui compartilhando com vocês algumas ansiedades e preocupações que todos nós temos com a educação.
So firstly, thank you so much for everybody being here. And it's an absolute pleasure being able to share some solutions and some of the challenges that we've been going through.
Eu só quero antecipar que, como física, na verdade, eu vim trazer mais questionamentos do que apontar algumas soluções.
But being a physicist, I have more questions than I do have solutions.
Eu penso que é um momento muito importante, todos nós sabemos, para todo o planeta. Nós temos um grande número de alunos que estão completamente no ensino online ou o ensino híbrido, né, com parte online e parte na escola. É uma questão que o mundo inteiro está vivendo e não sabemos por quanto tempo devido ao Covid.
So yeah, we're completely aware that some students are doing online virtual learning and some students are doing a hybrid or a combination of multiple kinds of learning. And it's a challenge that we must face and solve together.
Mas o que me preocupa são dois pilares que eu acredito que são similares, problemas na África e no Brasil, que é a acessibilidade dos alunos com equipamentos de internet em casa, e outro pilar que é a metodologia.
And the two main aspects that you also mentioned yesterday would be that of the accessibility, in the case which some students don't have access to internet in their homes, and the methodology, where the professors aren't really changing their style of teaching to accommodate online learning.
Mas a gente precisa compreender também que as pessoas estão mudando. E quem são esses novos alunos também pós-Covid? Quem são os professores pós-Covid? Né? Como que vai estar a nossa sociedade pós-Covid?
We must also acknowledge the fact that things are changing, and we must understand who these people are going to be post-COVID. How are the students going to change, and how are these professors going to change after COVID ends?
Essa é uma análise muito pessoal que cada ser humano vai ter que precisa, né, tá fazendo no seu dia a dia.
It's going to be a very personal analysis that everyone is going to have to do individually on a day-to-day basis.
Pode seguir o slide.
We can go on to the next slide. Okay.
Aqui eu aponto alguns fatores que podem influenciar na vida tanto dos alunos quanto dos professores do pós-Covid.
So here are just a few of the factors that can influence the lives of the students and teachers post-COVID.
Vou compartilhar com vocês uma experiência que eu tive há poucos dias. Uma aluna minha, ela de 5 anos, a mãe levou ao médico porque ela estava com toda a mãozinha cheia de bolhas, a mão inteira. E o médico...
So Ana Paula would like to share a story that happened to her personally. She had a student where the student's mother took her to the doctor because she had her hands were filled with like bubbles and blisters.
E o médico explicou que aquelas bolhas eram de estresse por ficar trancada em casa.
And the doctor explained to the girl that the blisters and the bubbles were a result of stress, a high amount of stress as a result of staying at home by herself.
Então, como serão esses alunos, né? A gente está percebendo que economicamente muitas famílias têm perdido emprego, têm diminuído salários e todas essas crianças elas estão sentindo e vivenciando isso. Alguns com menos, outros mais afetados.
So a lot of the students are realizing the pressure that COVID is also bringing upon the parents. A lot of parents are undergoing reductions in salaries and loss of jobs, so they're feeling an immense kind of pressure as well.
E tudo isso influencia no desenvolvimento cognitivo desses alunos.
And these factors also negatively influence the cognitive development of these students.
A psicologia cognitiva, ela aponta para uma pluralidade e multiplicidade que compõe o sistema cognitivo humano. Então, a gente precisa compreender que todos esses fatores, eles vão influenciar no sistema cognitivo de como os alunos irão aprender a partir de agora.
We must also understand that in cognitive psychology, these external factors will highly influence, whether positively or negatively, the development of these students.
Então, eu trago esses pensamentos que nós precisamos compreender que não é somente o fato do aluno ter o acesso, mas ele precisa ter o acesso ao computador e nós precisamos também compreender de uma forma muito completa como será o processo de ensino.
So not only must we be worried about and understand the students' accessibility to online learning, but we must also be worried about how their online learning experience is going to be like and create an environment that will suit them best.
Porque o contrário, disciplinas como a física, a química, a biologia, a matemática, principalmente, elas irão se distanciar mais ainda dos alunos.
Because in classes and topics such as chemistry, biology, and physics, the students will feel even more distance and have much more difficult challenges because of the nature of these hard subjects.
A física, a matemática, elas exigem um grau de abstração muito grande. E com o uso do computador, esse grau de abstração, ele aumenta mais ainda esse distanciamento. Então, precisamos pensar em metodologias que revertam isso.
Yeah. So topics such as physics, chemistry, and math are already extremely abstract and difficult for many students to comprehend. And adding in the factor of online learning using a screen enhances that degree of difficulty and abstractiveness even more.
Pode seguir adiante o slide. Por isso que projeto como o IC4 é encantador.
That's why a project such as IC4 is an amazing blessing.
Porque o aluno, ele está online, eu acredito nesse formato, o aluno está online, mas ao mesmo tempo existe uma conexão com a vida real, ele produz também no real.
Because not only is the student online, but he also has a realistic connection with other students.
Pierre Levy, ele aponta nessa construção do conhecimento e que ela se dá de uma forma em que acontece uma ligação entre os neurônios, os módulos cognitivos, as instituições de ensino, a linguagem, a escrita, os computadores. Então, isso tudo precisa estar conectado, não somente um único viés.
So we must integrate sustainability, technology, and all these products into the students so that to offer them a way that they can best understand each other online.
Uma possibilidade são kits para os alunos terem em casa também, de baixo custo, como o Arduino, Raspberry Pi, kits que eles possam desenvolver experimentos em casa também para sair da abstração e vir para o concreto.
So one way for us to combat the abstract nature of these classes and online virtual learning would be to provide kits such as Arduinos so that they can work by themselves as well and develop the practical skills as well.
Eu vou pedir para o Arquimedes falar também, só rapidamente, para a gente encerrar, sobre o laboratório de acesso remoto, que também é algo que poderia ser desenvolvido.
So now I would like to pass it over to Archimedes to talk about the remote laboratory that can be accessed as well.
Luiz, também vou contar com a sua tradução.
Tá bom.
Eu penso que, primeiro, quero agradecer a oportunidade de estarmos todos reunidos.
So first, Archimedes would like to thank everybody for being here.
De poder falar para vocês sobre algumas ideias que eu acredito que podem contribuir de alguma forma.
I'd like to talk about a few ideas that I know will be able to contribute in some way.
Seguindo a linha do conectivismo do professor Siemens,
following the train of thought of connectivity that Dr. Simmons proposed.
Nós podemos pensar que na atual maneira de se formar o conhecimento,
we know that the current way of developing knowledge
está associado a um conhecimento que pode estar nos objetos, nos artefatos, além do conhecimento na mente.
Is ingrained in objects and artifacts and not only in our minds.
Dessa forma, eu penso que o momento atual nos permitiria atacar o problema do aprendizado em duas mãos, talvez.
And I believe we can attack this challenge of online learning in two ways.
Uma de alta complexidade e uma de baixa complexidade.
So one of high complexity and one of low complexity.
Para baixa complexidade, penso que as atividades de observação da natureza e avaliação de dispositivos e artefatos construídos pelo próprio aprendiz.
So with low complexity, I believe that observing nature is an example of this.
Mas os sistemas de alta complexidade, como os laboratórios de acesso remoto,
But in the systems of high complexity, access to remote laboratories,
onde através de um acesso mediado pela internet,
using access that would be mediated through the internet,
é possível controlar um experimento real.
It would be possible to control an online, a realistic experiment.
Realizando as atividades que localmente não estariam disponíveis.
And that would realize activities that aren't available locally.
Mas que todas essas atividades estejam sempre associadas à realidade do estudante.
That all these activities would be associated with the reality of the students.
E permitindo que esse estudante possa questionar e inovar onde ele está.
And this would allow the student to question and innovate where he is.
Porque um exemplo, quando eu penso no grande problema que vivemos da pandemia,
and an example from the difficulties that we're living through COVID-19,
foram os trabalhos de Isaac Newton.
Were the accomplishments of Isaac Newton,
que conseguiu trabalhar no desenvolvimento das leis da mecânica,
where he was able to work on the development of the laws of mechanics,
durante uma pandemia.
Also during a pandemic.
Dessa forma, acredito que nós podemos utilizar talvez esse momento de tristeza e desafiador para, através de projetos de integração, darmos o passo seguinte e habilitarmos as crianças para a preparação de um futuro grandioso.
So I believe we can use this time of difficulty and full of challenges to unite and reintegrate students with one another.
Muito obrigado. Acho que essa era o que eu podia contribuir agora. Podemos depois conversar mais.
So thank you very much, and this is all I have to contribute for now, and we can talk more later.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It would be nice to just hear more of these, because this is, yes. These are the type of solutions that we need. It's really unfortunate that we don't have a whole hour to just have you Archimedes just share all this brilliant stuff. But hopefully we'll have more time down the road to hear some of the solutions. We were going to have a video of how teachers can create content on their own. But since we're running short of time, we just want to say to Julia and Dante, thank you so much for creating this video and the instructions for the teachers. What we're going to do is we're going to add it to the list of resources when we send it out, so that the teachers have this and can just go through it, watch the video, follow the steps that they have created. They did a wonderful job, and I wanted to make sure that they are acknowledged for that. That said, I will pass it over to Jennifer to give us instruction as to moving on to the next step.
Great. So, yes, thank you. So we wanted to have a time of you hearing from one another, and I think that was a perfect setup from
Archimedes.
Archimedes, yes. And so, especially around the area of collaboration, because I think what we've seen with IC4 is it's a collaborative content. And so we wanted you to take time. Ruth is going to divide you into breakout sessions. We're going to take a few moments and talk together about where are you seeing collaboration in remote learning within your context. So where are you seeing that in your country? And then if you could dream of a collaborative approach, even maybe based on some of what you've heard, what would that be? What would that look like? So we will put, Ruth will put these in a chat too to the breakout rooms. I believe she can do that. And are you ready to move them into breakout rooms?
In this COVID-19 era, we can use it. From my side, this is the best time for us to apply or take advantage of remote learning. I was just starting you off, so ideas from members so that we can kickstart it as fast as possible.
I could also maybe share that maybe we can bring teachers on board, because learning involves learners and teachers. Like right now at Semastea, we are really engaging teachers because we have been training face-to-face. But due to COVID-19, we have come up with online training now. And we are using the Google Classroom, and we have converted our module that we use for training them physically into an online module that we are now engaging them with. This course will run for about 8 weeks, and it's continuous. So it's picking up very well. But of course, there are challenges. Thank you. So involving teachers would be part of it.
Gilbert, you're lost.
No, I can't reach him.
Oh, he's still in the room.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you're lost. You got blended with the sky.
Why is your own not showing?
She can join our conversation.
It's for them, right?
Right.
This is all for them.
You want to join in the
Amaka, you can introduce her. We can say hello.
There we go.
conversation? Come and say hello to them.
Who is that future leader? Let's see them.
Okay.
Hello. Oh, hi.
Hi, sweet girl.
Oh, there's another one. Hi.
We hope you enjoyed your conversations together. Hi. Oh my goodness, more and more.
I remember before they were here, and even before Tusi and Amaka were together. So it's great to see a family come into existence like this. All right, Jennifer, I interrupted. Please proceed.
No, it's we just wanted to hear from you if there is one takeaway or one idea that came out of your breakout rooms that someone from your group might share for a moment. Just in terms of the rest of our time, we'd like to hear those, again, like one takeaway. And then we are going to have Ollie White from Liberia share for a couple minutes on teaching training together as another resource opportunity for you. Again, we are compiling all of these resources into one document that we will share with you. And then we will close our time. I don't think we'll have time for a second breakout, but we did, so that'll be our remaining 15 minutes. So can maybe group one share one takeaway? Ruth, you might know who was in the groups, I'm not sure.
I don't think she does.
I was going to say, who's group one?
Who is group one?
Well, somebody can just go.
Group one had two representatives from Kenya. It was John and Edwin, and then Gilbert from Rwanda and Elizabeth from Namibia. And a lot of the conversation talked about also the engagement with teachers and how to do training with teachers. And so I'd invite anybody from that group if you want to comment more about that.
I think very shortly what I mentioned is that in Kenya we are quite engaging teachers as Semastea. And since we used to train teachers on a face-to-face, that is teachers within the 47 counties, we have mounted an online training such that all these teachers are again targeted, but we are using Google Classroom. Initially, we started this 4 weeks ago, but it is picking up very well. Initially, there were challenges of internet connectivity, loading up the assignments and all stuff. We were also learning about the Google Classroom, navigating, exploring. So we are working collaboratively together with them. And so far, they have really appreciated that they have really well been engaged, and they have also learned a lot of ICT techniques that they have never imagined they would learn during this COVID time. So maybe that's what I would say. We give them some funds. We have also provided them with routers at the county levels through the ministry officials, and they are appreciating that. They were complaining of bundles. We are giving them 3,000 shillings for, I think, 4 weeks. Then we've added them another 3,000 Kenya shillings to be able to buy airtime so that they are able to continuously be in the Google Classroom. Thank you.
The group 2?
Who's group 2?
I think maybe our group was with Hillary and Sung and let's see, I forgot who else was in our group.
Maybe in group 2. Yeah, I was in.
I mean, the unforgettable Mary in group 2, and who else from
we had.
Kenya?
Oh no, there's someone from Cameroon.
Oh, and from Archimedes. Hillary from Cameroon.
Yes.
And Archimedes shared the tool that he also lifted here, Firefox, and is a great tool for running physics experiments and simulations over WhatsApp. And Hillary mentioned that another tool, I forgot the name of it, Hillary, maybe you can mention it, that we would like to experiment to see if Firefox, the tool that Archimedes explained, is usable. Go ahead without mute, Hillary.
Ayoba is for a mobile application. Has the same function with WhatsApp. But the difference is that WhatsApp uses internet connection, while Ayoba just need the available signal, mobile signal. Yeah, that's the link.
So Masava from Kenya, who's also in our group, put into the link ayoba.me as an alternate to using WhatsApp. We're not quite sure whether that will work with that particular application, but the takeaway from Archimedes was a very nice physics experiment device that kids can use and share from different places. So that's our group, Jennifer.
Thank you. Is there another group? Group 3?
Is that our group, Ty? Would you like our group to go? Ty, go ahead. Please share your wonderful thoughts.
Well, you are a fearless leader. I thought you would do that, but since you're giving me the honors, I'll take it. I just thought that wherever our local communities are, we would identify those for-profit entities, again, underscoring for-profit, who we would make the case that it's in their best interest, because if they don't develop the young people in their communities, who are going to be the folks sitting in the seats to run those companies, whether they be corporations, small companies, or even nonprofits. So we would make the case that by making certain investments, we would quantify those investments and show them, like, per person the investment they're making. It would be longitudinal. We would see the development, and ultimately they would have first dibs, if you will, on having internships for those students through college, and then upon graduation, gainful employment. And it's something I've done for many years professionally, so it's not just a figment of my imagination. When you invest in your community, they call it corporate citizenship, and it's almost incumbent upon corporations and companies to do that at this time, if no other time.
Amen. I feel like that needed an amen. Group 4.
I think Anne, Amaka, and I might have been group 4. We were talking a lot about equality and being able to reach students in remote areas who might not have the technology. If either Anne or Amaka wanted to kind of elaborate on what they were talking about.
Anne, would you like to share?
Okay, hello?
Yes.
All right, so myself and Amaka and Julia were actually talking about the faith of the children in remote area, and then I centered on Nigeria. Like, I gave myself, for example, I'm an LES practitioner, and then I work in the city, but I'm thinking about the children in the remote area that they don't have access to the internet or WhatsApp. They don't have phones. Their parents don't have phones. But we're advocating for inclusive learning. We're advocating that everybody should be on the same page globally. So I'm playing my own part. Like, I go down there to the remote village. I get a hall, and I get like maybe 30 chairs, because I'm also considering the pandemic, social distancing, and just make like maybe 30 children come and sit down maybe for like 2 hours. I engage them using social distancing. I record myself. I do a video of a subject or an activity or something, and they watch via the screen, because the truth is, over there in the remote villages, the internet is not strong. It's not even coming on. But these children have to learn. They have to be equipped. So how can teachers come together? Yes, we are advocating that the government should help us, but we can just go out of our own way, the little way we can, to make a difference in the life of those children. We've played our part as humans and, help them. But another challenge is also electricity. Amaka was saying something like most of these better amenities are accessible and affordable in the big cities, but it's not accessible in the remote areas, in the villages. So we need to come down to those villages, we need to come down to the remote area, so that it can be an inclusive and equal learning for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Group 5, did you have any additional comments before we hear from Ali?
So our group had Louise and Anna and I think Dorcas, who were about 5. But I think something that stood out is something that Anna shared. I don't know if she's willing to share it again. She's given a kit to her students that's enabling them to be able to grasp what she's teaching while at home, and I think she could be able to throw more light much better. So Anna, please.
Ana, quer falar sobre os kits?
Pode ser, mas eu queria falar antes, Luiz, que na conversa do meu grupo, o quanto eu me senti pequena perto das experiências que elas apresentaram.
Ana Paula is saying how she felt kind of belittled and insignificant compared to the experiences that the other members had.
é algo que me apertou o peito mesmo.
It's something that made her think a lot.
Eu exemplifiquei para elas dos usos dos kits, né, que os alunos eles têm, cada aluno tem um kit para poder desenvolver essas atividades e nós poderíamos pensar em kits de mais baixo custo ainda e também na formação de professores. Eu me proponho a isso.
So with Ana Paula's students, they've provided kits such as Arduinos and other low-cost kits that are accessible and can easily be purchased by the students. And that really facilitates the practical side of the learning as well as the online virtual part of it.
E eu queria só fazer uma pergunta que não é do grupo, mas para Arquimedes. Essa dificuldade, Sr. Arquimedes poderia falar que essa dificuldade não daria para resolver, por exemplo, em zonas rurais, com intranet? É que, Luiz, quando eu não consigo resolver, aí eu peço para o marido ajudar, sabe? Mas se você pode fazer a tradução.
Seria possível. Depende, Paulo. Essa questão, talvez seria possível criar uma rede de sistemas de repetidores. Mas teria que ver quais são as distâncias envolvidas.
Isso seria em termos do quê? De expandir a internet?
De expandir a estrutura de rede, a Ana Paula está falando isso, desculpa, só para contextualizar, é porque eu estou trabalhando com expansão de Wi-Fi para a região agrícola brasileira.
Acho que é melhor o Luiz traduzir.
So Archimedes also works with a communications company where he focuses on installing Wi-Fi and internet. And he's saying that in Brazil, in their region, it's possible to install extra routers, internet routers in the city and in different regions to expand the online accessibility of internet for other people.
É que no Brasil nós estamos usando um sistema para rastreio de gado, para melhoria do gado de corte. Então, as fazendas estão instalando sistemas de longo alcance de Wi-Fi.
Entendi. So in Brazil, in the farms in Brazil, they use high technology networks to track the cows, the cattle in Brazil, and they can use, Archimedes says they can use the similar technology to expand the Wi-Fi into the city as well.
Aí a gente podia pensar, é questão de ver mapa, né, ver tamanho, ver distância, porque às vezes o custo de instalação de um equipamento de repetição sai mais barato no longo prazo do que consumir a rede de dados, né?
So all we have to do is check the distances between in the cities and just look at the maps, because sometimes it's cheaper to just install extra routers instead of constructing an entire different database and server for Wi-Fi.
Thank you. Obrigada, Luiz.
Thank you so much. There is so much and we need more time, but I just wanted to give, I hope you are finding this fruitful just even to hear from one another, because I know just the enterprise that is existent in this room alone is very encouraging and inspiring. One enterprise I want to just mention, if Ollie, I'm going to put the website in the link. Ollie, if you can talk about this teaching training together. And then Dr. Hamilton is going to kind of close this out with just some ideas on funding. And I think we would love to try and meet again. So we will just share about that. But if you can stay for a few minutes, please do. Ollie, go ahead.
Right. Thank you so much for this opportunity. So I'm an education specialist by profession, but I've been engaged in teacher training for over 12 years now. And my emphasis has been on evidence-based reading education for teachers in the lower classes. And so we have trained more than 700 trained in 700 public schools, more than 2,000 teachers. And that training, the training that we provided was very informative. It helped us to see how the gaps that teachers got as a result of the quality of training they themselves received. So as a result of that, we had to now develop scripted lessons to help teachers provide better instruction in the classroom. So even though the scripted lessons that we provided over the past 12 years have served their purpose, however, we had several challenges with the scripted lessons. One, it was time consuming. And so because it was time consuming, we could only focus on one or two subjects or content and not the entire thing. And teachers had gaps. They were not prepared properly to provide instruction, to deliver instruction in the classroom so that students could learn properly and get the kind of outcome that we're expecting. So the first challenge we experienced was it was very time consuming developing the scripted lessons. So the next thing was bulky and very restrictive. So teachers who wanted to be creative couldn't be creative, and they were limited because it was kind of very restrictive. Finally, it was not sustainable. We found that the scripted lesson was not very sustainable, and we couldn't continue just because of the amount of time required in developing scripted lessons. So in 2019, I met Beth with this very transformational transformation. So it's one thing when they have the content, and another problem if they had another thing if they had method. So our teachers had content, but methods they didn't have. So with the program, with teaching training together, it provided the methodology to be able to help teachers actually deliver effectively their content in the classroom. And so I'm just going to share with you some of the things that you learn when you're using TTT. So the first thing is we found that in TTT sets the stage that there are three major keys for student achievement that will unlock student achievement. One of them is the culture, the school culture. And the second one is the quality of the teacher. And the third is the school leaders. So under TTT, the teachers and the school leaders, they learn together. The entire school learns together. Then they build a community of collaborations among the school leaders and also with other schools. So it's not just building collaboration among school leaders and teachers at school, but also collaborating with other schools. We find that most of the time in schools, people, they don't trust their leaders. So they are not safe to actually express their vulnerabilities. So if a teacher had a problem, she won't be able to express a vulnerability because the culture of the school does not provide that opportunity to do so. So with TTT provides the methods to be able to help you do that. So one of it is helping you develop a culture of improvement in your school, improving your school culture. There's the other thing that under TTT the teachers and the school leader will learn is teachers and school leaders learn about the role they play in helping students move from their actual ability to their potential ability through the gradual release of responsibility. I know most of you already are aware of that. And they learn to differentiate instruction so they can identify multiple intelligences in the classroom through this, and then they learn to differentiate instructions in the classroom. So teachers and school leaders also learn to lead by modeling under TTT. They'll also learn to conduct assessment using Bloom's taxonomy of the different levels of thinking. So they apply Bloom's taxonomy levels of thinking to how they ask questions and to also how they develop learning objectives. So with COVID-19, we can see that there's a way in which we could probably think about using TTT to be able to reach a lot of people using the methods of TTT. We have been able to, what we have seen with TTT, we have been able to crack the code for student achievement because we have been able to now merge content with methodology. And this is what TTT provides. So it's not going to change your content, but it provides you the methods through which you can actually deliver effectively in the classroom. And your teachers and your school leaders are together, learning together, and they learn to improve their culture together. They learn to do a system of review of what's going well in the schools and what's not going well, and develop plans to be able to improve that. So in a nutshell, that's what TTT is about. And you have the link. If you have any questions about TTT now, we can actually address that.
Thank you so much, Ali. And it's really exciting because they've had great success in Haiti, and just in the last year have started, because of Ali, moving into Liberia. And Flavia is here too, and I just found out she's one of your scholarship recipients. And so
from TTT,
yeah, I'll put the link back in. And so Flavia is there as well from Uganda, and so we are just love to see these connections. I realize we're 10 minutes past time, so I want to, no, there's such good stuff. So Dr. Hamilton, would you like to make a comment before Ruth closes us?
Sure, and thank you, Ali. That was great. And there have just been so many ideas that have circulated over the last couple of days. One thing that we've done quite a bit with is try to go out and get funding for projects. And for those of you with whom we've worked, our usual source has been either the National Science Foundation, or in the case of working with Namibia, the U.S. State Department. And it's been the case that some of our efforts we've tried to get funding from a number of corporations, including from Microsoft and foundations. But I wonder if, after listening to things for the last couple of days, it wouldn't make sense to have maybe more fragmented attempts to get smaller amounts of funding that individual leaders can use to build projects, to take advantage of some of these ideas, to replicate some ideas, or, for example, to implement TTT in some other venue. So I think that would be, Ruth and Jennifer, a path that maybe we can create some small narratives that people can just up and use as they wish for proposals that they write, and then think about other ways that we can maybe try to do some centralized proposals. But things like IC4, where there's a fair amount of centralization, might not be as easy or readily accessible when you have to connect to a big whole project. But either way, we want the flexibility of seeking resources from individual government ministries, foundations, or corporations, and doing it at any level, whether for individual sites or for a larger collective. I hope that makes sense. We'll include that in the follow-up, but I think it would be great for people to band together and mobilize resources. That's all.
Jennifer, did you want to say something before we wrap up?
It's up to you, Ruth.
Okay, it's up to me. But I'm really excited. You saying that, Dr. Hamilton, just makes my heart jump from inside out, because it's nice to see that everybody came out, and we all came out because we want information. We want to do better. We want to prepare a better future for the children. So just to know that, see, I'm crying, just to know that, that here, those of us that are over here that have a little bit better are willing to support in whatever way we can. It's heartwarming and touching. And whatever we prepare and whatever instructions that we give, we hope that our governments in sub-Saharan Africa or other low-income countries will be able to take it seriously and really look into this problem. There are over 12 million kids that are running around Africa from the ages of 12 through 18-year-olds that are not going to school. We cannot let that continue to happen. We need to do things like this to move us from that rut that we've been in year after year, generation after generation, to the next generation. We have to envision a new future. And I'm so happy that today 30 of you showed up to make sure that together we envision this new future. And if it is grant writing and whatever resources that we have, we're hoping that we can have more of these meetings, whether it's every 3 months, whether it's every 6 months, whether it's every year. We're hoping that we can have a lot more and keep these conversations going and keep bringing in all these great resources that you're seeing that we already possess to help each other move forward. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for sharing willingly and for sharing generously. Knowledge is such a gift. And if we don't share knowledge, it's easy to be selfish with knowledge, but I'm happy that we are willing to share knowledge. So let's continue to share. Any resources you have, send it to us. We'll put it together and send it out. On that note, I think that we should just say thank you and write us, tell us what you think, tell us how often you want to meet. We might be able to send out a survey to just ask a few more questions. Thank you so much. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Thank you. Asante sana, Marakose Chane.
All right. Until next time.
Thank you, Archimedes, for your comment.
Oh,
Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Luis. Thank you so much for translating.
My pleasure. My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Excellent interaction. Enjoy totally. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, Ruth.
Bye-bye, John.
Thanks for the nice facilitation.
Oh, yeah, Jennifer did great.
Wonderful, wonderful. Jennifer. Bye, Jennifer.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye, Anna.
Bye.
Nice to see you, Anne. Thank you.